Did you want to test the sound real quick? Or I like
I
hear-
actually just did.
Oh, okay, cool. Just
So we're
wanted
good.
to make sure before we get started and then get back and realize we don't have anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we'll start with the general question.
Okay.
And how do you think the gun law under this Kennesaw City Ordinance has affected crime statistics for the city of Kennesaw?
Well, basically, it's like we had discussed earlier, and that you mentioned in your class when the chief spoke, that it's hard to determine an exact correlation as how much impact, but there does seem to be some impact just from looking at the crime rate trends over the years and from talking to members of the public. When the city council passed the ordinance in 1982, the first year after, they saw a fairly substantial decrease in crime, what we call the Part 1 crimes, or the crimes that are tracked by the FBI: murder, rape, robbery, burglary, aggravated assault, things like that, of about 20–25%. So that, that's a fairly substantial decrease. And even though the city has grown tremendously over the last 25 years, when they passed the ordinance, the population was only about 3,000. We're 33, 34,000 now. When you adjust for population, our crime rate is actually lower now than it was prior to the passage of the gun law. So it seems to have had some impact. And a lot of people, say they hear about it and they think it deters people from coming up from other places to commit crimes in Kennesaw.
And I know there has been a couple gun instances around the university as of the past couple months. I know the Kennesaw student girl who was murdered in the apartment complex. I know that was right outside of Kennesaw city limits, but I'm assuming you guys were still noted and called.
Yeah, we responded to assist Cobb County Police on that.
Mm-hmm. And also there was a armed man who was running around the campus, I think a couple weeks ago. So it almost seems like maybe some of these illegal use of guns has been popping up a little more frequently in the past couple months. What do you think?
Not so much from what we've seen from our statistics. Our violent crime rate is extremely low in the city. What we've run across is a few more instances of gun possession, but not the actual use of a weapon in commission of a crime. We've had a couple of attempted shootings in the last year, but from our standpoint, it hasn't increased very much. We've had a pretty substantial increase in population in the last couple of years, and especially over from the university because it's growing so fast. But we haven't seen gun violence per se. We have encountered more weapons than we have in the past, but it's not become any kind of a major concern at this point.
Mm-hmm. And do you think as Kennesaw grows as a university, we are getting our football team, I think this fall.
2015.
Oh, 2015. Next fall. Do you think that may influence how the gun law affects crime statistics if there's more students who are in possession of guns at home as the Kennesaw State University population and just residents of Kennesaw in general increase? Do you think that may waver how the gun law has affected the crime statistics?
I'm not sure if the actual impact of the gun law will change. That usually more people will lead to more crime to some extent. What we've seen is the raw numbers have gone up over the years, but on a percentage basis, when you adjust for population, it's actually stayed lower. And that's what we hope will continue, that we won't see an increase or a spike in any type of violence, especially gun-related violence. And of course, one of the things that we preach as a police department is that we respect everybody's Second Amendment rights, that if legally you can own a gun, then we support that, but we push being responsible gun owners, that you secure your weapon, that you know how to use it safely. And when it comes to the college students, if you're old enough to own a weapon and there's parties, and that's where we worry more about, that somebody may have a weapon in their apartment or their house and they have a big party and there's drinking, and somebody who is not in their right mind accesses that weapon and does something. That's a concern, but we try to handle that through education more so than anything else. We haven't really experienced many problems from that standpoint yet.
Mm-hmm. So maybe in the past couple years, the individual crimes may have increased But when you divide it out between the population, it's still lower.
Right, yeah, our violent crime rate is almost 60–70% below the national average. You know, we do have occasional violent crime, and our homicides over the years traditionally have been all domestic related. It's not been stranger to stranger crime or things like that. So, but in the 25 years, I think we've had 9 homicides, and like I said, almost every one of those was a domestic related homicide.
Okay. What do you think the outcome would be if the city took that law out of its ordinances?
I don't think there would be an immediate impact. Primarily, we like it from, I say we, the police department, because it is kind of a talking point, that it gets people to talking about crime in Kennesaw and things like that. And of course, it's never been, I don't think when they passed the law that citizens ran out and bought additional firearms or anything like that. But what it does is people will, you know, they'll go somewhere and they say, oh, you're from Kennesaw, isn't that town everybody has to have a gun? And by keeping that conversation going, it keeps people focused on crime prevention a little bit more, we think. And occasionally the word, you know, we hope that the word does spread among potential criminals, that they may think twice coming up here because they literally think everybody's got a gun and they're walking around carrying guns and things like that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm really blind as a bat, and of course I have them all on my email. Now, has there been more gun-affiliated gang involvement since the implementation of the law?
No, not so. We have very little gang activity. We've had more so in the last 10 years than the previous 10 years, but that more or less is just an effect of the area growing more than anything else. But no, we did make a gang case in February, and that was that shooting, the attempted shootings that we're talking about. We arrested 5 guys that were members, all teenagers, that were members of a new gang that had formed in the North Cobb area, and charged them with firing shots at a house, and it was retaliation for a guy who wanted to get out of the gang. But that's the only gang case that we've made in quite some time, and fortunately, we don't run across very many armed gang members in this area.
Now, was it determined how the teenagers obtained those guns? Like, were they ones that were around their home from parents?
No,
or
I'm pretty sure from everything that they were just bought off the street somewhere. They were stolen weapons bought off the street or something like that.
Okay. All right.
And that's generally how most of the time when we take a gun off somebody who's committed a crime, they haven't obtained it through legal means. It's a gun they bought from somebody that was stolen, or they stole it themselves.
So there's been a couple incidences more recently of illegal gun use then?
Yeah, we've had the 2 incidents within the past 6 months, but that's, I don't know if you say that's a lot more, but that's the most recent, and we've had 2 incidents.
Okay. So overall, do you think the gun law helps protect the city and put the city in a viewpoint where, you know, like you mentioned earlier, you know, we have guns, don't, you know, keep that in mind if you try to commit a crime within our city? Or do you think it has allowed maybe potentially a younger crowd or a younger generation to have the mindset of more crime can be committed since all residents are protected under the law to have firearm in their homes?
I think it primarily has a deterrent benefit. That to be honest with you, I'm not sure how many people of college age are even aware of the gun law, especially people who haven't grown up around here. So I think it has more of a deterrent effect to some extent, that just people think twice about, you know, committing the crimes. But from the other standpoint, I don't think it encourages any type of crime.
Okay. And I know there's been a lot of uprise on campuses in Georgia, especially Georgia Tech and Kennesaw, about students rallying together about being able to carry on campus. What is your viewpoint on that? Do you think that would be a good thing? Do you think that would be something like the gun law that's already established in Kennesaw? Do you think that's something that would help protect the students, or do you think it's something that would possibly allow more gun abuse?
It would be one of those. It's tough to say, just from the standpoint, because everybody on a college campus, not everybody's of age to be able to own a handgun or a firearm all the time, and how much percentage and the things that are going on. Personally, My biggest concern is that generally, especially those first couple of years that people are at college, that's the years of a lot of, having parties and things like that, that might be a little bit more risky behavior. But from the other standpoint, I don't see a problem with a grown adult being able to take a weapon with them onto a college campus. But it's really one of those things I think each university should have the right to be able to decide. You as a student and your faculty probably know best what's for your community. So I would rather see it be that way, where the individual universities could decide, make decisions.
Yeah, I know I'm on the fence about that because I'm from Virginia, so I know about the shootings up there and everything, and I was there for when that happened. So it's almost like, if the students had guns, maybe they could have done something to prevent all the other.
The arguments pro and
recurrence,
against
but,
are both very good. And like I said, that was I understand the pro part of it a lot. That if you did have an armed student, they could have maybe ended that very quickly. But then the other concern I have is we were all been there before, and you know what it's like, that there's a lot of extracurricular activities that take place those first few years. People are college students, and that's where I worry that somebody's at a party, you may not even intend for it to happen, they stumble across, you've got a weapon in your apartment or your dorm or something like that, and the next thing you know, they've done something they shouldn't have done with it. I guess it's like just about anything else, there's always a potential.
Yeah. Okay. I guess the last question I have, if I can read it.
I got a pair of reading glasses.